So this is sponsored by the NFL. It's Anquan Boldin. He's a retired receiver. He played for the Cardinals. Baltimore Ravens won Super Bowl with the Ravens. Really good receiver. That's besides the point. What I think this is like, this is the NFL obviously dealing with some of the issues and flack it gets, but it's led by Anquan Boldin and his mission, which makes it much more authentic, makes it feel much more kind of grassrooted, and I think does a very good job of, like, obviously it's addressing something that's important. Obviously it's sponsored by a big organization, but I think this is where the NFL, and where the Budweiser I think misses the mark. I think the NFL at least letting its players and the people that, you know, have come up through its ranks and like have come from these scenarios and are affected by these things, letting them speak for like what needs to be done and letting them lead the charge and turn it into a spot to let them know that they're doing it is a much more effective way of, like, it's still self-serving, no doubt, but I think it's a much more effective, authentic way that doesn't feel contrived to me. And it has a good element of storytelling. Like, they have some really well-produced shots, but they also show actual real footage. You know, they show like the family members that are affected by this talking. Like, it's a good example of like how sometimes as professionals we get caught up in like everything has to look super pretty and like fit this certain way, but like fitting it to the narrative is just as important.
Yeah, I'll never forget that night. I was still playing with the 49ers, and my wife walks up after the game. They told me that my cousin Corey had been killed. Corey broke down on the side of the road, and a plainclothes police officer pulled up. Then this guy starts screaming. All you hear from there is 3 shots.
Why is my son gone today? Why?
He would give you his shirt. He would be cold just to keep you warm.
This officer was in plain clothes. Corey had no way of knowing who he was.
There's just some things that are bigger than football. And I felt like starting the Players Coalition and affecting change in this country was one of those things. We focused on police community relations, education and economic advancement, and criminal justice reform. Had it not been for the work that we do, Corey's death would have been in vain. The best way to inspire change is to be it.
And so one of the key elements I want to call out here that really differentiates it from me from the Budweiser typical American spot to this is that you're hearing from the voice of someone who is obviously moved and empowered to make this change and is leading this effort. So it's like an interview or whatever they did to get that VO. You know, it's very natural, it's very emotive, and it's in that person's voice way, where Budweiser is just a scripted kind of contrived thing in my opinion. So I think I always talk to clients about that too, where it's like, if that's the direction you want to go, you want for this emotional kind of reach and to feel real, like if you can hear it from the people that is affected by it or lead that charge, is much more powerful than us writing a voiceover, even if it's the best voiceover ever written and recorded. And I think that's what really sells this spot even more, and the authenticity of it. And it feels, you know, yeah, it's making the NFL look a little better, but it's also like, I know Anquan Boldin is doing this for a fact, and he definitely believes in it. He's obviously personally affected by it. So it's just a more effective advertising messaging tool.
Yeah, it doesn't seem self-serving to me. Obviously, there's a PR element that comes out of being a part of this, but it seems to be less about a self-serving ideal than it is about actually, you know, wanting to do some good.
From an authenticity standpoint, as far as the composition and execution of the spot, I think I have to agree with Nick. It's done in a really organic and authentic way. It's a combination of footage, it's real stories, real experiences, and you capture, you know, your person speaking, you capture their emotion and their really authentic feelings about it. It's not scripted, it's not contrived, it's really organic and authentic.
To talk about the elements, I think, make it feel that way, the music is a great choice. The music has a good pace to it and has like a strong heartbeat through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's kind of subtle though too. But
that they can hit points that, you know, really drive home. The shot choices, I think, you know, obviously they can't, you know, they don't have footage from the thing or can't use it, or obviously it wouldn't be the right choice, but they get you to feel that experience in a way that doesn't seem, you know, over the top. It doesn't seem too faked. It gets you in that mind space to let you really connect with what Anquan Boldin is talking about.
Yeah, I really like the elements of like there's the footage of Anquan Boldin and like the reenactment that's like something we may shoot, right? and they combine that with like the news footage and like Anquan Boldin's retirement, and they piece the story together that way. But you know, sometimes as creators, you cringe when like, oh, we're gonna have to use, you know, dirty, you know, old camera footage or news footage or photos, right, and combine that together. I think this is a lesson to be learned for clients and for creators that, you know, sometimes the best spots can be made by the combination of all those elements, and letting the story and the messaging match, you know, what you're producing, and making sure that you're doing the right thing for that story and for that messaging and the brand in particular.
This is a much smaller team. They obviously had to shoot these shots, get the shot from inside the car, but this is going to be primarily editor based.
There's only this night scene that was shot.
They shot it the same night they shot the other footage.
That's what I'm saying. It's all shot one time. Yeah, for sure. 100%. That field was probably near where the street was that day.
That they put a big light up there.
Oh, they did.
They put a big light up there though. Like to pull something like this off, it definitely. I don't think that they had to really blow the bank on the budget for this. They had to shoot the scene. Basically, the only stuff they shot that isn't collected footage is this kind of interaction between the cars. That's the reenactment. Just to give you that feeling. It doesn't even a true reenactment. It's kind of this idea of cars approaching to help visualize the scene he's setting up. And then there's the shots of him out in the field, which I would say they did this all one evening.
There's also Anquan Boldin in the car, but it's probably the same.
It's probably from this. They're probably pulling. They probably just used him. Like it's probably the same area they popped him in. And then it relies a lot more on post and archiving the footage and the different images and things like that. You know, this from a production standpoint is probably one of the like more subdued, subtle, you know, not over the top productions out of all the spots we've seen to this point.
To tag on to that, it could have shock value. Like a different direction they could have gone is for like big, well, shock value stuff, and they don't do that. And I think that lends a lot to conveying the correct message. Because if they went with shock value, it doesn't really hit home the same way, where it personalizes everything. Then it starts verging on, you know, being sensational, and that's not what they're going for. And I think the way they've done this and the pacing of the edit and, you know, the dips to black every once in a while, just giving you glimpses of what it's like without really going overboard with like showing big, bold visuals, I think really lends to the story and allows them to tell this the right way without it being sensationalized.